Hello, it's Lromanosky and Aidan Goss shooting from Calgary, Canada and the Lugnuts facility. And what we have here is for sale is a 2013 Cayenne GTS. And so we'll do this video. It'll probably take about 45 minutes. We'll break it into sections, have a table of contents. We'll go through some of the important things you want to know about the car. One of them is a little bit about the GTS, about the optional equipment on the car, which if you've been shopping for a Porsche, you know that you can add $20 or $30 or $40,000 worth of options onto these cars pretty easily. And so that two examples, which might be the same model and year, can differ widely depending on how they were built. Okay, so we'll go through that. We'll do an exterior walk around, an interior walk around. I have a paint meter. We'll test the paint depth. We will do a cold start video, we'll take it for a drive, and we will put it on the hoist. We'll have a look underneath the car, and these are the videos we do. They usually take about an hour. They're 45 minutes to an hour. They're not designed for likes and subscribes. We're not trying to do top gear, but what we are trying to do is instill the greatest amount of confidence in the vehicle for somebody who would be, in all likelihood, buying it sight unseen, sending some money to a person they don't know, maybe in a different country or even continent with some cars. So we'll go through the vehicle. We'll be as comprehensive as possible, and we'll go through it inch by inch. Okay. So with that, let's start with about the Cayenne GTS. Okay. So I sold these vehicles when they were new. I was the sales manager for the local Porsche dealership in Calgary. From early 2012 to the start of COVID in 2020. So I'm the guy who ordered all these cars, basically. It's going back 12 years, but let me give you my perspective on what it was like to sell Cayennes in that era. When I started with the dealership, we had one demo. It was a Cayenne S. And this was in, let me think about this. This was in, I guess it would have been in the spring of 2012. And we still had some first generation ones on the ground that were demos. And we had the very first of the 2012, I forget the model designation, 9A, I just can't remember it. And these ones had just landed. And these were a big deal. Everybody wanted one of these new generation Cayennes. We had none for sale, and no other dealer in Canada had one for sale either. We had a list, a file folder with about, I would say 50 deposits on the cars. And we were getting, in the first year, I think we only got 50 of them. So we had like the first full year or for year and a half that was pre-sold. And when people came in, they'd say, well, I want to buy a Cayenne. And we'd say, well, okay, we'll take your name and take a deposit and we'll let you know when we can get one. There's 50 other people ahead of you. And people will get super mad at us. They'd be like, well, get one from another dealer, you idiot. It's like, no, you don't understand. They're sold out worldwide. Canada is asking the factory for as many as they can get. This is all we have. There's 50 people that are ahead of you. And that really just didn't go down very well with many people. And we had a bit of a struggle explaining that because nobody who'd ever been in the market for an SUV at that time was ever told that the model was sold out. I mean, I don't know, maybe for the first year in the Toyota FJ Cruiser, maybe. It was common for me, having sold Mercedes SL55s in the early 2000s, selling certainly Ferrari, the 430s and the Scuderias. There was always waiting lists. There was always people jostling for position to get the allocations. There was never enough cars. But it didn't happen on SUVs. So people would come in and try to buy these things and be like, sorry, we don't have any. The car was a big deal because let's just show a first generation Cayenne out here. So we've got one of those too. So that's an example of a 2010 Cayenne S, which is a great off-road vehicle. It's really well built, but the new one was something like, I want to say 600 pounds lighter. It did away with the low-range transfer box. They just realized that people aren't taking $100,000 vehicles off-road. And so they did away with that. This vehicle is actually marginally dimensionally larger than the other one, but it looks a little bit smaller. And on road, it's a completely different vehicle. It drives much more like a car. Yet you can still, I've taken this thing off-road on the Porsche Proving Ground in Leipzig, and then on the Autobahn at over 220 miles an hour, or 220 kilometers an hour. And it's amazing that the vehicle can do both of those things well. We forded through water that, must have been like covering the wheels anyway. And then went on goat paths and then climbed steep hills. And then at the end of the day, we just drove it to Stuttgart at over 200 kilometers an hour. So amazingly accomplished vehicle. The demand was very high at the time, and it took a long time before we actually had any inventory of these. I remember at the beginning of the year when you have a dealer plan and you'd sit down with the Porsche representatives and they'd say, okay, well, how many cars do you think you're going to sell? And this is your market share in this, and this is your market share in that. How many of this do you want? And how many of that do you want? Or whatever. And they said, well, how many Cayennes do you want? I said, well, I want 200 Cayennes. They say, well, you can have 100 Cayennes. So that was the end of it. Then, most of the Cayennes that we got were just the normal V6. We got fewer Cayenne S's and fewer turbos and turbo S's. So just to sort of frame that, we might have got 100 Cayennes a year. And this would be the same for any sort of mid-sized Porsche dealer. And of those, probably half of them were V6s. And then of the 50 that were remaining, probably, I'm going to say, 20 or 25 were Cayenne S's. And then the GTS Turbo and Turbo S, that was, the remaining 25 cars. There was only a couple of Turbo S's, and there might have been about, maybe 10 or 12 turbos and 10 or 12 GTS's. So one a month, okay? And the GTS was the enthusiast's pick. Essentially, what a GTS is in all Porsches of this era is a Cayenne S that has all the performance options on it. So you can almost build this as a Cayenne S. You can build a Cayenne S with air suspension and sport exhaust and 21-inch wheels. You can build it with the aero kit, and you can put the interior in it as well. But what the GTS added was 20 more horsepower, from 400 to 420, and it had big brakes. It had brakes from the turbo. So you couldn't actually do that with an S. And the thing about a GTS is that if you compared an equivalently optioned Cayenne S with a GTS, the GTS was actually less money, and you got the big brakes, and you got an extra 20 horsepower, and you got some additional interior options. So for the guy or woman who wanted the Porsche to be the sportiest possible Porsche at the best price, it was the GTS. Why? So with all the GTSs in the 911s, with the Panameras, with the Boxster and Caymans, and with the Cayennes, the GTS was also in the highest demand. And for all that whole GTS line, we never got more than one of each car per month. Okay, so when you're looking now for like a used car, well, the pool of GTSs out there is not very big. We only sold 10 or 12 of them into Calgary every year. Okay, so it's a rare car, and it's a desirable car. The combination of the normally aspirated 4.8 liter V8, the sport exhaust, the big brakes, and the sport chrono package, or the PASM, the adjustable suspension, adjustable dampers. Actually, it's air suspension, so it's adjustable air suspension. Makes the car handle extraordinarily well for its size. And then the air suspension also makes it comfortable as well. So it increases that sort of window of the ride comfort compromise. Whereas if you don't have air suspension and you tune it to be really sporty, it's very stiff. It's difficult to get the comfort back. Whereas with air suspension, because it has so much variability in the air strut design, you can actually make it comfortable and make it sporty, at different times. And it does both really well. And also you can raise it and lower it for loading and to clear obstacles. So anyway, that's what a Cayenne GTS is. And that's why it's desirable. It was desirable back then. It's desirable now. These Cayenne GTSs would have been, let me think about this for a minute, a regular Cayenne, you could get it for like maybe 70. A Cayenne S at the time would have been 90 to 95, but if you put options on it, over 100. And kind of a base Cayenne GTS with not too many options would have been about 125. You could push a Cayenne GTS closer to 150 with options on it, and then the turbos started around 150 as well. Okay, so obviously the Cayenne GTS started where Cayenne S left off in the low hundreds, and then kind of ended where a turbo sort of began. But the normally aspirated engine is a little bit more involving to drive than the turbo. It doesn't have that wallop of low-end torque that a turbo does, but it's got the V8 soundtrack. So again, for the enthusiast, this was the pick. Now, we're only starting with 10 or 12 Cayenne GTSs delivered into Calgary in a year, and most of those were fairly conservatively optioned, because the price goes up really quickly with the Porsche option list. This car is one of the highest optioned Cayennes, GTSs, that I've seen. It feels like a car I would have ordered, because I don't know that yet. I haven't actually gone through the paperwork yet, but it feels like a car I would have ordered. And I loved the interior in it. So anyway, let's go to options that this car has. Let's go through that. So a Cayenne GTS would have come standard on 20-inch wheels. It would have had air suspension. It would have had a sport exhaust. It would have had the body kit. Optional are the 21-inch wheels, which this car has. A Cayenne, the GTS line was all done a la carte. So you can actually get a GTS of any Porsche of this era and find out it doesn't have electric seats, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have a heated steering wheel, it doesn't have any of that stuff. We made mistakes ordering these cars because we just assumed that the Cayenne S would have the standard equipment that the S would have, but it didn't. You had to order each thing individually. So that's that. Blind spot assist. We can see a little diode there that indicates that it does have blind spot assist. So that is on the exterior. And if we go around the back, the LED headlights were standard, the sport exhaust was standard, the trailer hitch was not standard, and that is expensive to retrofit if you want to tow something. I think it was like a $750 option, but $3,500 to retrofit. The power tailgate was standard. Okay. Most of the options in this car were in the interior. I don't believe, I think you had to order Bose as a stereo upgrade. So it has the Bose stereo upgrade. Significantly for this car, it has the full leather interior. Normally on a Cayenne, the dash top is not stitched leather, and the door top here is not stitched leather, okay? And this one is. So you had the standard interior with a plastic dash and plastic door caps. Then you could order a full leather interior, and that gave you the leather dash, the leather door caps. Then there were two, I think, optional interiors. One was Espresso, and the other one, in the cars, it was red. I'm not sure. Maybe the Cayennes only had one option, like optional full leather interior, and this was the Espresso leather interior, right? And you could have a couple different versions of this. There was a two-tone one and a solid Espresso, and from memory, it was like about a $4,600 upgrade over the full leather even, because it's not the same leather. There's like 3 different types of leather in the Cayennes. There's kind of a coarse grain, highly processed, like regular automotive leather. And then there is a higher grade of leather. I don't know what exactly it's cost. This was I believe it's Napa leather or semi-aniline leather, one of the two. Anyway, it's like an open pore leather, and the big difference is that it's porous, and that the leather's dyed all the way through. So with the base leather on cars, you get a hide. They sand it. You take half of it away to get away all the imperfections, and then they basically spray paint the top of it black, and then they coat it with a bunch of some sort of clear urethane or whatever. So it's really highly processed. It doesn't smell like leather particularly. It doesn't wear that nice, but it does have good durability. This isn't that. This is less durable than that kind of leather, but more luxurious because it keeps the open pore, it keeps the scent, and the leather isn't sanded to get rid of the grain, and it's dyed all the way through. It's like vat dyed. So this interior is special, and it was a lot more money, and it was my favorite leather. I loved ordering this interior just because it was so nice. And again, that was $4,000. Next, the seats. There were at least 3 or 4 different kinds of seats. You could have, generally speaking, you could have the regular comfort seats or the sport seats, and the difference is in the bolsters here. The comfort seats had a lot less bolstering on the sides and on the bottom. The sports seats had, more heavily bolstered, so you could hold yourself in. Then there was 2 electric adjustment packages. These are the 18-way seats, and for the comfort seats, they had a 14-way electric option. The 18-way seats gave you this movable cushion. Well, if we turn the car on. This movable thigh support and height adjustment and backrest angle, and then lumbar support. So this is the highest end seat and the more sporting of the seats. And that 18-way seat was rare because, bigger people, less agile, had to kind of climb over this bolster. And for bigger guys, they preferred the comfort seat. So if you're regular size, let's just call it, you'll find this seat more supportive. There were a couple different steering wheels. This one has the toggles for shifting gears. There was also a sports steering wheel. The sports steering wheel couldn't come with a steering wheel heating, and this one does. I can feel the button right behind it. So this has steering wheel heating. That was also an option. Okay. Air suspension on a GTS, I believe, was standard. That was another $5,000 option on the regular car. Okay, so with that. This car has 4-zone climate control. That was an option. It was, I think it was either $1,200 or $1,800. You can see in the back there that the passengers have their controls for each individual seat, okay? So that, they didn't all come with that, actually. The trim was an option. There were at least optional finishes. There was carbon fiber, and there was wood, and there was the brushed aluminum. I believe the brushed aluminum was standard on the GTS. In the front of the car, we can see that stopwatch on the dash. That was part of the Sport Chrono package, which was optional on the other Cayennes, but standard on the GTS. And that is also tied in with the Sport button down here, which then changes the damper settings, throttle mapping, etc. And it gives you a lap timer and some other ones. So while we're in looking at the seats, these are heated and, well, they're heated seats. They're perforated. Now I want to add that if you eat in your car or you're really messy, all these perforations get plugged with food and so on. So a indication of a well cared for car is that you can look at all these perforations and not see a whole them filled with food and spilt coffee and stuff like that, okay? So this one's in really nice shape. And let's get back here and look at the bolster wear. With the natural leather, like on this piece here, with the natural leather, it is softer, and you will see wear in this area here, and you will see this stitching wear. And I'm actually surprised how good a condition it is, because with the natural leather, with the porous leather, there isn't that thick coat of plastic over it, and it wears as like a natural patina, but it also wears out faster. So if you're hard on your cars, hard getting in them, you will wear that bolster out pretty quick. If you're heavier set and just kind of fall into your car, all that friction of you sliding into the seat will wear out the seat actually pretty quickly. So I already know that the person who drove this car wasn't large. One, they wouldn't fit in the seat. If they were, two, the seat isn't worn. So don't know who owned it, but my client is a fit guy, and you know, has you know, looked after it. Okay, I don't know who had it before that, but they did as well. Okay, and then we can also look through, you know, all the carpets and so on. Just get a slow pan of that. You know, these SUVs can have dramatically different lives. You know, some of them get used for kids and dogs, and you know, the kids eat in them and throw up in them, and the dogs throw up in them, and you know, they're a complete disaster. You know, at 10 years old, almost ready for the crusher. Some of them are executive owned, and nobody's ever sat in the back seat, and you know, they still look basically showroom. This car has had, you can look at the carpets, they're unmarked, and we'll just walk over here, and we can see the WeatherTech mat set in brown. I actually didn't know they made them in brown. So those have been in the car from new, and that's actually $700 or $800 worth of WeatherTech mats, and that really protects the interior of the car. Okay, so that also we'll look at the big panorama roof. So let's get a shot up here, and we can see that, and then go underneath, and we can look at that from inside the car. So especially with a dark interior, that really opens up the ambience in this Cayenne. Other options, let me just think about this. We have air suspension, we have the Sport. That's all standard. Heated seats. I think the heated seats in the front are standard. Sport Chrono is standard. And I think I've got, oh, the Alcantara headliner. This would have been standard with just a synthetic, well, I guess an Alcantara synthetic too, but you know, just a plastic basically. And the headliner was a couple $1,000. So, and it didn't come with the leather package. It was an optional extra. So there's like, in the interior right away, I can count like $4,600 for the leather, another $2,000 for the headliner. That's $66. Another at least $1,000 for the 4-zone climate control. Another $1,000 for the Bose, and so we're approaching like $10,000 worth of options just in the interior of this car. Panorama roof was a couple $1,000. So what is that? 46, 56, 66, 86. Yeah, we're approaching $10,000 worth of interior options on this Cayenne. Okay. Okay, so let's do a exterior walk around. There's really not too many flaws on this car, but I'll point them out to you. First, let's start with the wheels. Driver's side front, we can see that there is some road rash there. Okay, let's go around the car, the rear wheel, and it all looks pretty good. That's just a bit of discoloration. There's no scraping there. Okay, let's go over here. And the passenger rear as well. That's just rubber from when the tire was mounted. Okay, so that one looks good. And the passenger front. again, that's just markings from the rubber. So there's one rim with a little bit of curb rash on it. The other ones are fine. In the front of the car, it does have the 3M or film, and it does cover the whole front clip. So from the door forward, that is all 3M, and it's holding up pretty well. The headlamp also has a film covering on it. So I don't see the 3M delaminating, or I don't see any real tears in it at all. There's some remnants of some bug guts on it. It's done its job. It's protected the paint. There's no way this vehicle was driven in Calgary winter. I don't know the entire history of it yet, but this isn't a local winter Calgary-driven car. It would never look like that if it was driven in the winter, not even one winter in Calgary. Okay, so, and then I don't see any cracks. You know, there's no part of the bumper cover that's loose. There's no cracks underneath. There's no, it's still in really nice shape. With the windshield, we've got and a few little pits. I think there was one touched up chip here that was repaired. So there's that one. And, well, I mean, there's some light pitting on the windshield, but nothing that would call for the windshield to be replaced. Okay. There's no marks on the front bumper. There's no door dings. There's no scratches on the doors. No marks on the glass, no scratching on the glass, no scratching around the door handles on the driver's side. Walking around the rear, there's no scuffing on the bumper, no cracks in the rear bumper cover. I don't see any, scrapes on the corners. That's where you usually find the scrapes there. I do see some marks from loading, and that's not unusual, from whoever's, loading. Now, this is actually 3M or film, so the marks here are actually on the 3M, not in the paint actually, which is good. It's a good place to put film actually. So then they thoughtfully put this on and protected it, okay? So that's in nice shape. And passenger side, I don't see any chips. I don't see any scratches. There's a mark here. You can zoom in on that. It's a tiny little mark, but I'll call it. No marks in the glass, dings out of the fenders. So the body on the car is, well, couldn't really ask for any more of that. I've got a paint meter here, so there's no damage on the car. There's no chips on the car. There's no dents on the car. One wheel's got curb rash on it, and everything else is in really nice shape. Let's see what the paint meter says. New on this car would be, around 150 micrometers, plus or minus 50. The paint, when it is blown on, it flows, and so you don't get exact readings throughout. Repaints on, late model cars, if it's in an accident, they're generally in the 3s and 4s, so 300, 400 micrometers. That's 0.3 or 0.4 of a millimeter. Factory depth is in between 0.1 and 0.2. So let's just see what this has to say, and we'll start with this door. 185, 215, 194, 193, 222, 196, 215, 196, 210, 218. Rear bumper cover is plastic, so nothing appears. Rear tailgate, 158, 178. Go around the rear corner. 218, 216, 178, 149, 127, 146, 127, 134. We'll do the roof. 172, 188, 196. The other side. 199, 176, 167. Okay, so all the readings are within, 50 micrometers, which indicates to me all original paint. When I go to the front clip, though, I've got the paint depth. I've also got the film. So now the film is about as thick as the paint, and so now I'm expecting readings in, whatever, 400, 447. 406, 420, 393, 379, 427, 374, 389, and 392. Now keep in mind the film when it goes on is stretched, so it varies in thickness too. So you've got basically 400 micrometers, 200 of that's film, 200 of that's paint, around 175 to 200 micrometers on the rest of the car. It's entirely consistent, indicating to me that it has got the original paint throughout on this car. Okay, so now we have this 2013 Cayenne GTS up in the air, and so we can go underneath it, and we can look for damage, we can look for corrosion, we can look for oil leaks, and the general state of it. You learn an awful lot about what a car has been through once you look at it from underneath. So let's turn the camera around and see what we find. Okay, so first we can have a look at the tires, and we see that they are nearly new. And these are Pirelli Scorpion P0s. They're summer tires, and they should have a date code. Oh, here they are. Okay, so date code would be 14th week of 2024. Okay, so let's just go look at all the four tires, and we'll verify that they are a matched set of P0s. And there's the other date code on the top, which is 14th week of 2024. And they are a P0 AS plus 3. So not the all-out performance tire, but the P0 AS. So that should give you a little bit of, some traction even in light snow, although it isn't a snow tire. Okay. Next, we might as well look around the lower sort of extremities of the car, because that's kind of the most vulnerable from damage. And we see the sport exhaust with big black tips and the rear valence. Guess we can see a little bit of mark there. Not sure what that's from. Possibly somebody towing and it just bumping that. Okay, so we'll disclose that. And otherwise, there's nothing on the sills. The front bumper cover is probably the most vulnerable. Let's get a look at that. And we can see it does have the 3M on it, or the film on it. See the front parking sensors, and this looks actually pretty good. On some cars, you can get, these can be pretty chewed up, and we can see a light little bit of scuffing on these sacrificial pieces. But nothing, that's not cracked or torn or anything like that. If it gets bad, this piece will be cracked and this piece will be torn off, okay? So we can look at the front suspension. We can see the big brake rotors. Let's get a look at these. I guess brakes on a Cayenne especially a GTS or something you want to look at because they're expensive. And we can tell the wear of the rotors by the lip that's on the edge of the rotor. And you know, it's a very minor lip, so there's still lots of life left on the rotors. I mean, I'd call that for 75% on the front and about the same on the rear. Okay, so there's lots of life left in the brakes. And let's look at the rest of it, okay? So immediately, what's obvious to me with this car is that it's not corroded. And I would venture to say that it does not look like it's had any Calgary winters at all, because if it had, you would see corrosion on these fasteners, and I don't. Okay, so that is a really important thing. And we can see the air suspension. If those struts fail, again, you'll see some sort of evidence of leaking or torn boots or something like that. So I don't see anything with the front strut. But again, no corrosion at all on any of these fasteners. Okay, and so we have front under tray, and all of that looks good, not cracked. I mean, all these fasteners are still here. I've got a little bit of a drip on the edge of this, and that's right under the oil filler. So I don't know what that's caused from, but could very well be just filling it with oil. If I do shine a light up here, I do see that right above the where the oil filler is, I can see some spilt oil. Okay, so that is what I believe that is. I'll check it from the top of the engine as well, but because I did see some residue on the side of the oil cap where the oil filter was, and so I believe that that's what this oil is just the last time somebody did an oil change, they spilt it. I do not believe the engine has any other oil leaks. Nothing that is obvious or that I can see by this light. And I'm going to shine it in there and look at the bell housing, the bottom of the oil pan. And all that looks good. I do see a leak or a little bit of wetness from what looks to be the bottom of the transmission pan. And you can see the oil. You can see the oil on these fasteners. So it looks like that gasket is going at the bottom of the transmission oil pan, which is actually kind of a good excuse to give it a transmission service. So I can disclose that. So that's probably on the horizon from somebody, but that isn't a major repair. Okay. So otherwise on the under tray, I don't see any damage. I don't see any damage in the sills. I don't see that anything is corroded. All looks good under here. Big bore exhaust. I mean, a little bit of light surface rust on that, as you would expect. Going into the back of the car, again, these suspension pieces, which are painted black, they will take the brunt of rock chips, and they'll start to rust, pretty quickly, especially in Calgary weather. And we just don't see it with this. I mean, there's a tiny little bit, but the rust first appears usually on the fasteners, and I just don't see that with this car at all. So the underside of this is in very nice shape, and it has like a very limited amount of corrosion on the fasteners. And it looking at this car, I would say that it has very, very limited, if any, winter use. It's obvious to me that this vehicle has not been driven in the salt. Okay, Okay, so all that looks, and I'm about to shampoo the engine and make it look nice, but I wanted to get the video in before I touched it, just because, you know, the dirt will pick up any seepage. So that's what I'm finding, and that's what I'm calling basically is some weepage from the valve cover gaskets on the top of the engine, and on the bottom of the engine, some minor seepage from the transmission pan gasket, which is accessible on this car, and neither of which I don't think need immediate attention, but we will disclose that they're there. Okay, so let's do a cold start and a driving video on this 2013 Cayenne GTS. So we'll fire it up. I'll open the bonnet. We'll put the microphone in and around the sides in front of the engine. We'll listen for, you know, any unusual noises. There aren't any, but we'll verify that. We will take it for a drive. Just get my commentary on you know, suspension and so on. Brakes. We'll check for vibrations from the tires or from the brake rotors. You know, make sure that it shifts correctly, stops in a straight line, you know, all the basic stuff. And I've driven this vehicle, it does all of that, but we'll put that on. Okay, so we see there's no water temperature in it. We see 3 bars of oil pressure. We see the idle, which is steady. Sorry, that's oil temperature. There's no oil temperature in it. Water temperature, it's cold as well. We have a little bit more than a half a tank of fuel. The kilometers at this point are 135,552 kilometers. We don't see any check engine lights. And if I toggle through, and then what happens when I toggle through these? Well, we can see that the trip odometer hasn't been reset in a while, that consumption has averaged 14.5 liters per 100 kilometers, speed 41 kilometers an hour. I will note that actually that's on the high side for average speed. Most of the cars that come in driven in Calgary would be in the 35 kilometer range. So this has got a little bit more highway driving compared to normal. And we have the tire pressures at bar. Nothing unusual with the gauges. And what else can I show you here? All right, so let's just pop the hood here, and we'll listen to the engine. Okay, so there's nothing, no, it's not doing anything funny. We have a little bit of ticking from the DFI, which is normal. We don't have any noises from the ancillary components. You know, we see a little bit of oil residue, but that's just because a little bit spilt when they filled it up. There's no knocking or other, you know, not that we're expecting anything, but there's nothing unusual with the way this engine is running. And I'll just let you listen to that. Okay, so let's just have a look at some of the controls here while we're waiting for it to warm up. We've got the 18-way adjustable seats, the high-end seats, and the Espresso leather. And we'll have shown this in the interior, but we have the full leather interior with the leather stitched dashboard and the door tops. We have the panoramic sunroof, which has this big shade that opens up, and that works perfectly. And I can also demonstrate that the sunroof opens as well, okay? So this makes a big difference in the cabin. All right, so that is all functioning perfectly. We've got heated seats, the fully automatic climate control. We've got, we have air suspension on this Cayenne. And I don't, yeah, no, they would have come, like, I think they would have come standard with air suspension. So we're able to vary the ride height. And so we have the comfort, normal, and sport. Okay, so let's just check the off-road settings on this car and the operations. So we have the mountains on the top, and we have the highway on the bottom, and we hit this once, and now we have our off-road mode on. And so I can then drive it in this mode, and I believe that this is, there's no problem turning the vehicle in this mode, winding up the axles, because it's not a differential lock. It's just the it just affects the gearbox. Okay, so now if I stop the car and I push it one more to the mountain, then I get the center differential lock on. Okay, so now I don't want to turn this car because I will wind up the drivetrain. Okay, but I'm just demonstrating that it does function. Okay, so we go to a stop. I take this, I put it one more, and it takes the center differential lock off, and then I hit it one more, and the off-road mode is off. I'm back in the regular mode, and I've done all of this with the car in gear. Okay, and so now let's continue, and we'll just go on our drive here. So we'll go up through the gears, and this, the normal 4.8 liter engine from memory in this car was 400 horsepower, and I believe the GTS gave you an extra 20, so that's 420 horsepower. It comes standard with the Sport exhaust, and so that is, you can toggle that there, and then it changes a bunch of parameters with throttle mapping, with the exhaust, and with the shocks. And you can also see that it is in the process of lowering the car as well. So I've driven these cars quite extensively, even on the racetrack and on the Autobahn and so on. And you know, I've driven this car, this model year, I think, at 220 kilometers on the Autobahn in Europe, and it's just fantastic. It's really unique that they can make. Let me just close the sunroof here. It's really unique that Porsche can make an SUV that can actually go off-road and then go on the Autobahn. So it was amazing when we did the training, when I was at Porsche, and we did the training for this car, because we'd be going up, very steep hills and fording water with the car, and then we'd be driving back to Stuttgart at over 200 kilometers an hour. So this is a really rough road, and it's a good test of the suspension. And so it's firm, especially in the sports setting, but there's no clunks or evidence of anything that is worn out. And also, you can tell that the shift algorithms are changed to the sport mode, and it's quite a bit stiffer all around. Okay. So we probably don't need it to be in sport because we're just cruising. So I'm going to take it off sport, and then it'll also change the ride height and change the exhaust and change the throttle mapping and so forth. Climate control works. AC's cold. Down so we can hear it, and now I've got it in the regular mode, and it's not quite so fierce when you change gears. And with Porsche, you can actually feel the suspension settings. I mean, some cars you can't actually tell if you press the buttons, but the PASM on the Porsche makes a pretty big difference. Okay, I'm not getting any drone from the tires. I'm not getting, I'll just step on the brakes here, and not even touch the wheel. It stops in a straight line. I'm not getting any pulsation from the brakes. If these cars sit for a while, depending on the kind of tires they have, you can get flat spots on the tires that are fairly noticeable. Generally, they go away, but it can be annoying for the first few kilometers. So this one doesn't have that. I don't have any, and the tires on this are recent. I don't have any vibration, any flat spots. As well, the brakes are fairly recent as well, and I don't have any pulsations from them. Okay. You know, I mean, it's got the normal, you know, radio, you know, PCM from the period. Many of them have been modified and upgraded. I mean, you can replace all that with you know, a 10-year newer unit with you know, Bluetooth and streaming and so forth, apps and all the rest of it. But it never quite looks the same. And those units actually, you know, it's really kind of variable depending on what it is and who installs it, as to its sort of long-term durability. So I think, you know, I prefer to get a car that's at least, you know, that is stock. Okay. And now we've got smooth road, and we can doubling the speed limit. That's not good, but it does demonstrate that shifts correctly, good power, you know, the tracks in a straight line, no vibrations, etc. So it's, you know, it's doing everything it's supposed to do. Okay, so to summarize this 2013 Cayenne GTS, what can we say about it? Well, it was part of the second generation Cayenne lineup, very successful. These cars were in very high demand when they were new. I sold them when they were new. The GTS especially. The GTS is the one that all the journalists like. It seems to be everybody's favorite pick of the sharpest and most you know, driver oriented of the Cayenne line, and the most you know, the most sort of aligned with the Porsche buyer and the Porsche brand values. Okay, it's also one of the rarer variants. I mean, I said before, you know, I ordered all these cars, and you know, we'd ask Porsche for 200 of them, and we'd get 100, and of the 100, 50 of them were V6s, and then the S's, GTSs, and turbos, we probably got, well, maybe another 25 S's, and then that only left about 25 vehicles for the GTS Turbo and Turbo S. So we got basically one of these a month, and it's the one that everybody wanted. Okay, so it was desirable new and it's desirable used. So that's one thing. You know, but that applies to any Cayenne GTS. This one is we actually sold it new in Porsche Center, Calgary. I would have ordered this car. I don't remember if I ordered it for stock for some reason as a demo or something like that, or if it was a customer order. More than likely a customer order. The thing is, though, that this is the interior that I like. This is the Espresso. It's like a $6,000 option on the car, and I think it really transforms the interior. And we ordered really high-end cars at Porsche Center, Calgary, much more so than the rest of the dealer network. When I got there, I came from Bentley and Aston Martin, and before that Ferrari. So I was sort of used to putting on expensive options on cars. And when I looked at the base Cayenne with the plastic dashboards, it was a little bit decontented. And for another 10 or 15 grand, you could really make the interior quite special. So I ordered a lot of Porsches with this you know, $6,000 Espresso, special leather and lots of interior options. And when I did that, I got a lot of, I mean, I got a lot of raised eyebrows in the whole Porsche world. The other sales managers at the other dealership, Porsche Canada, like, what are you doing? But anybody who's ordered one of these cars, when you click the button and you put all the good stuff on it, it gets really expensive.
Most of the other managers would just shy away from that. They put big wheels on the car to make it look fancy, but when it came to the interior, it didn't even have like some basic stuff. Hardly anybody put trailer hitches on the cars, for instance, or roof racks, or there's a whole bunch of stuff that I put on many of these cars that nobody else did. And our MSRPs were considerably more. And when we started doing that, like I said, we got a lot of pushback, saying, "What are you doing? You're making our cars too expensive." And our position was, well, look, we'll order the cars like this for the showroom, and then people can see it at least. And if they want to order a car, we'll order it any way they want, but at least they get to see what the leather looks like, or see what the sound system sounds like, or see what the options do. And the sales guys get to see it too, so they can sell it. So anyway, this car is an example of that, with the full brown interior, the full espresso leather interior, the Alcantara headliner, the big sunroof, the dual zone climate control. It's like, that's like 10 grand worth of extra stuff in the interior. And then when the Cayenne GTSs came standard with 20-inch wheels, this one is 21s. When I ordered the 21s, I recommended to everybody to put the air suspension along with the 21s. Otherwise, the ride was a little bit harsh because the sidewall wasn't that high. And so, but I found that if you put the air suspension with the 21-inch wheels, you still got some ride comfort, and you also got the added advantage of the vehicle being able to adjust its ride height, and it had a bigger window between comfort and sport. It could be both more comfortable and more sporty than the conventional springs. Okay, all of which really improved the vehicle substantially for the ride comfort and just for the interior ambience. Like, I mean, it feels like every bit as nice as a Bentley in here. Okay, but you only got that if you did the full interior, and then you put some more, and you put some stuff in it. Okay, so we've got that. Then so we got a really high spec Cayenne GTS, and I mean, 1 in 100 GTSs might be like this. Well, nationally they would have, I don't know how many they would have sold, a few hundred a year, something like that. Like, we're talking about a pool of cars like this that is extremely small. In other words, the odds of finding another one optioned similarly are very remote. Then we have low kilometers, 135,000 kilometers over more than 10 years, 10, 12 years. So like, whatever, 10,000 kilometers a year, whatever it is. And then we sold it new in Calgary, but the car has a history of being in BC, in Kelowna. And that's normal for many of our clients. They'd spend the summer in Calgary, but when it got cold, they go somewhere warmer, either Kelowna or down south in Arizona or Palm Springs or whatever. Okay, so it's got good provenance. It's an accident-free car. It's got original paint. It's got the 3M covering for the whole front clip. It's been looked after. The underside of the car is really clean. We have an oil leak from the transmission pan, which is, it's there, but it's not bad. That's not an engine out service, so that's good. And I think we've got one light bulb burned out for the backup light, and that's about it. So this car would have been 140 new, something like that, maybe pushing 145, and so now it's a fraction of that. 135,000 kilometers. There's still lots of life left in it, and it still feels like a special place to be. It was it had a nice life. There's no evidence of child seats or kids or anything like that, or dogs are in it, and it still smells and drives and feels like the way I ordered these cars more than 12 years ago. Okay, so it's a real find. It's a nice car, and it's somebody's going to be really happy with it. So with that, Lawrence Romanosky, Romanosky Automotive from Calgary, Canada. Please like and subscribe.